Hey everyone, this is Adi, and you're listening to the Summer of Bitcoin experience. In this episode, we talk to Yetong Tang, a computer science freshman at the National University of Singapore. Yetong participated in Summer of Bitcoin last year and worked on the Padawan Wallet project. Padawan Wallet is an app that simulates a Bitcoin wallet and teaches people how to interact with Bitcoin. Yetong talks about his work on extending the wallet functionality, Bitcoin's utility as a decentralized currency, and shares advice on how to get started with Bitcoin open source development. Let's hear it from Yetong. Hope you enjoy it. So, Tang, welcome to the Summer of Bitcoin experience. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Adi. Thanks for having me here.
All right, let's start with a bit of your introduction. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yep. So I'm Tang. My name is Yetong, and I'm a freshman at the National University of Singapore, NUS, as a computer science major. And I started my Summer of Bitcoin internship before enrolling into university, and after I finished my compulsory military service. So when I was 21, I just came out of army, and I saw Summer of Bitcoin, and I tried my hand at it. I have some prior experience in software engineering before I tried applying for SOB from my education in high school, and I have some experience as a software engineer intern at other places.
Awesome. So tell us about your Bitcoin journey. How did you stumble across Bitcoin, and what made you feel like it's an important thing to pay attention to?
So I think my introduction to Bitcoin is pretty much the same as any other person, average person, in that I wasn't one of the few early people that stumbled upon Bitcoin, and I super hyped about it. But I heard it from my friends that were talking about it and how much hype there was around it, and how the prices of Bitcoin was increasing every day, and so and so. So that was my first interaction with Bitcoin. So I heard about it, and I had some thoughts about it. So I never really paid so much attention as to dig deep into the code. But I did know that it was some along the lines of being a decentralized currency that anyone can use. Yep. So I had some knowledge, but I never had the motivation or the reason to dive so deep into such an emerging technology since I was still in school.
Right. So now that you've worked on Bitcoin and have understood it quite a bit, have spent some time with it, what do you feel is important, and why should people pay attention?
So even now, I feel that Bitcoin is still a very new technology that, even though it's been out for many years, is still being worked on constantly. Every day there's new developments. People are introducing new improvement projects, new BIPs every day. It's a lot of discussion. So even though now that it's not being implemented, it's not being used by many people, I feel that in a few more years, in the coming future, it has a lot of potential.
All right, cool. So that's as far as the technical side is concerned, right? What are your thoughts on the potential that Bitcoin represents in terms of the money, in terms of the choice that it provides? You said there's a lot of technical development that's happening that is obviously interesting to follow and contribute towards. Then there's also the potential, the utility of Bitcoin. What are your thoughts on on Bitcoin in that aspect?
Yep. So even now, Bitcoin is being used with regards to the Ukraine-Russia war. There's Bitcoin being transferred every day from other people outside of Ukraine to contribute to help Ukraine out. So Bitcoin, as you can see, is being utilized even now in our current times. Even though not everyone is using it, it does have its uses, its utility as a decentralized currency. Anyone can use it, anyone can send it to another person without the need to transfer through banks or through international exchanges. So in regards to utility, there is just one of many such possibilities that Bitcoin can have. That I'm sure if more people use it in the future, you'll find new niches to fill and more utility also.
Makes sense. So let's switch gears to Summer of Bitcoin, right? How did you come across it, and why did you choose to apply?
So when I was introducing myself earlier, after I left my compulsory military service, I was looking for something to fill my time in the summer before university started for me. So I was looking through all the traditional software engineering intern jobs. So I was looking at software engineering intern in government positions, in private companies, but I chanced upon some of Bitcoin, and it looked interesting at first because I felt like it drew parallels with some of code in that there's an open source aspect. You contribute to open source and you get a stipend, and it's remote and it's largely on at your you do work at your own time at your own target. So it was very enticing for me since I didn't want to. It was during after just after the COVID period, so I didn't want to have to go out every day, have to deal with COVID issues. So some of Bitcoin, and most importantly, I felt that it will give me incentive to learn about Bitcoin. Since I am learning about it, I'm contributing and I'm also getting a stipend for it. So it was a lot of draw for me to sign up for some of Bitcoin.
Let's take a quick break and hear about today's sponsor. Hey everyone, this is Adi. When I was starting in the Bitcoin industry a few years ago, there were hardly any resources to learn from. It was especially hard to find other like minded Bitcoin developers and discuss about building apps on the Bitcoin blockchain. Well, things have changed, and I'm so excited to share with you about the Build on L2 initiative. Build on L2 is a community led effort by contributors and companies building on Core Lightning and the Liquid network. It's a space to connect with Bitcoin builders, product managers, designers, and developers through events and mentorship programs and learn from experts building the future of Bitcoin. It's exactly what I wish I had when I was starting out in Bitcoin. Go to buildonl2.com to join the community and learn how to build killer apps on Bitcoin. Back to the show. Awesome. So, tell us about the organization that you chose to work with, and why did you choose that?
So after I looked through the Summer Bitcoin website, the whole application process is that you sign up, you send Summer Bitcoin an email, and they will let you know if you were accepted into the screening round. And when you're chosen to the screening round, you get to look through a list of projects, open source projects. And on the website is listed their technologies, what they use, what type of intern they're looking for. So I found a project that aligned with my strengths, which is working on Android apps, and which landed me with the Padawan Wallet with the mentor Thunder Biscuit, who was later my mentor. So I saw this project that also aligned with my strengths. So in fact I can focus more towards learning about the underlying Bitcoin technology, the libraries they use, instead of trying to also learn about how to code, how to work with the programming languages that they're currently using. So that's how that's how I focused on Padawan Wallet at first. So after I found Padawan Wallet, it came the screening process, and the proposal stage, which is I contribute towards it. I communicate with Thunder Biscuit on how I can contribute, doing small commits to the code base. And afterwards, Thunder Biscuit told me that since I looked like I knew what I was doing with the code base, that he would accept me as the Padawan Wallet intern for the summer. Yep.
Cool. So, tell us about the specific project that you worked on in Padawan Wallet.
So Padawan Wallet is meant to be a Android app that could teach laymen. So the whole approach that Thunder Biscuit wanted Padawan Wallet to be was to be an app that anyone can use. So let's say you wanted to teach your parents, your friends how to use Bitcoin. That they have no idea how to do it, but they think it's very complicated, that it needs a lot of technical knowledge. So the whole idea of Padawan Wallet is to give them the app and they have a run through, a tutorial on how to use Bitcoin, what is Bitcoin, and afterwards they can just delete the app, but they retain all the knowledge on how to safely use Bitcoin, what it is, this stuff of knowledge. So that was the project idea. And what I did during the summer was, since the library that Padawan Wallet was using, it was quite new also. So a lot of functionality is not in. It was just a basic send and receive. So during the summer, what I did for Thunder Biscuit was to also help him implement new functionalities like sending to multiple people, signing, this sort of stuff. So that was the project, the project work that I did during SOB.
Okay. You mentioned your mentor was Thunder Biscuit. Do you want to tell us about your experience working with him?
Yep. So he was a very open, very nice person. So working with him was very easy because we found a very common time slot to discuss about these project ideas very early on. So we had a common time slot, and since we were discussing on Discord, basically, since we connected through Discord from Summer of Bitcoin. So what he told me was that if I had any questions, I can just message him, and when he was online, he can just reply with an answer. So I don't have to wait until every weekly meeting to ask him a list of questions. So anytime I had any questions when I was doing the work, I can just ask him and he will reply. And also, what he did was, because he was also very involved in the library, working on the Bitcoin code in conjunction with Padawan Wallet, he also told me that if I wanted to, I could join their meetings, their weekly meetings, and contribute there also with other very experienced, very veteran Bitcoin contributors.
Sweet. So, after Summer of Bitcoin, like, what are your plans now? You mentioned you've just joined university as a fresher. Are you currently working on anything related to Bitcoin, or
So
have plans
currently,
doing so?
yeah, so currently it is my winter break for university. So there's not much time. There's not enough time to go on a full scale internship. So other than resting during my break, I've also checked back. I tried to check back with Thunder Biscuit on how Padawan Wallet is doing after I left. Also because I wanted to see if in my free time now, that if how much progress, and if there's any low hanging fruit I can still help him push along. Yeah, to further Padawan Wallet.
Sounds good. What do you think are the best resources for a beginner developer, who wants to contribute to open source Bitcoin? And in the same lines, any advice for people who want to participate in Summer of Bitcoin again next year?
So the resources, actually, some of Bitcoin has, other than some of Bitcoin's own seminars, which they have very, very guided seminars, very detailed resources on the Some of Bitcoin seminars. Thunder Biscuit also sent me a link to several resources. The best one, which I thought, was the lecture series from MIT about cryptocurrency, about Bitcoin, basically. So it was from MIT a few years ago, and it was from one of the most experienced developers, just running through the concepts for Bitcoin. And it was I think it was very clear. It didn't use any technical jargon that you as a beginner wouldn't know. So I think it was very easy to follow. It just, if you have time, you can just open it while you're free and just have a listen through the 30-minute lectures.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll make sure to include those in the show notes. And any tips to others who want to crack Summer of Bitcoin?
Yeah, for tips, I think the hurdle, I think, for most people with, I think, Summer of Bitcoin, and even something similar like Summer of Code, is the open source part of the project. I think as a beginner developer, you might be scared that you are not good enough, that you can't contribute to the open source project because everyone there is so experienced, so much work has already been done. So I think one of the best is to just jump in to the open source project. If you see any low hanging fruit or any easy to do problems, try that first. And even if you mess up, nothing bad will happen, because then the worst thing that can happen is that your commit gets rejected and the open source contributor just tells you, oh, why this is wrong and how you can improve it. So either way, just jump into it and it will be a learning experience for you.
Sounds good. Okay, Tang, this was awesome and tremendously useful. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with Summer of Bitcoin.
Yep, thanks for having me here.
Thank you for listening to the Summer of Bitcoin experience. I would love to get your thoughts on what else would you like to hear from these student developers and how to make this the most valuable podcast for getting started with Bitcoin open source development. Write to us at hello@summerofbitcoin.org. Can you do us a small favor? Go online and share this episode with at least one friend who you think would benefit from this episode. Until next time.